Welcome back to Coming Home Well, and this is straight to the point with Dr. Paul Lawrence, the former Undersecretary for Benefits at the Veterans Affairs. We are going straight to the point today about veterans without banking, unbanked veterans and the Veterans Benefits Banking Program. It's a big mouthful, but it's a real serious problem. If you don't have a bank, how in the world do you deal with your benefits? Paul, what is this, and how does it
Well, you
work?
well, you're right. So, Tyler, in many of these segments, what we've done is talked about getting benefits, and generally disability compensation, a pension, GI Bill. The end of it is the government starts sending you a monthly check, okay, or a monthly payment. All right. Well, there was a law back around 2010 or so that said government will no longer send checks. They'd rather have things done electronic deposits. But if you don't have an account, what that resulted in is veterans getting their benefits on a debit card. This debit card, there was one person doing this for government. It's called Direct Express. And I discovered when I was in office, there were a lot of problems with it. Identity theft, customer service, fees. It was just rather unsatisfying. Veterans were complaining, and you'd hear about problems from time to time. Lo and behold, at one point, there were like 200,000 unbanked veterans, people getting these cards.
Wow,
You
that's
could,
a
you
lot of
could still
people.
you could still kind of get checks if you go through some exemption process, but it was really unsatisfying, it was unsafe and the like. So when veterans were asked, why don't you have accounts? They said, we don't want to pay the fees to have an account. So we searched around and found an association of banks called the Association of Military Banks of America, AMBA, who said, hey, this is what our banks do. We're on bases. We serve veterans. We will get together and ask our members, will you allow veterans to have free accounts, no fees, if they deposit their benefits electronically into your bank? So there's presently 16 of them, okay? And also credit unions, there are like 26 of them. So you can see there's more than 40 institutions that will let you have an account without a fee so you can get your benefits into a bank, which is so much better than a debit card or a check or just any of these other things. So the real push was get veterans into the banking system. So that's really the short term. You can ask a couple questions and we can talk about some of the logistics and how it all works.
So instead of a debit card, and I've dealt with, the government issued credit travel cards and defense travel service, which is a horrible experience every time. I can only imagine it's very similar to the way this debit card was. A lot of fees, a lot of difficulties using it, maybe not accepted everywhere. And how do you pay your rent with a debit card?
And you can't add money more to it. Somebody wanted to give you money, you couldn't do it. And the frustrating thing was about the Direct Express card was the card technology has changed over time. You can do amazing things with these cards, right? And this was not keeping up. So it was not only a bad device, it was a bad device. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't anything you could really do. And the technology on this has changed tremendously over time. So if veterans are interested in this, and even if even if you have an account now, you can still do this, right? Go to Veterans Benefits Banking Program, veterans, it's a mouthful, .org, and they'll see it. And if you just type Veterans Benefits Banking or some combination of those words, you'll eventually get to a VA site, which will take you there, or the site, run by AMBA that has all the banks. And what's really important about this is why the banks really matter. Just think about banks. They spend tremendous amount of money making sure their customers are protected, right? Identity theft, security, and now you're part of that, right? They are, consistent, right? Your payment will come. It might even come early. It's safer. Think about this, in electronic funds transfer, but also you're going into a bank which is regulated by the government, either the FDIC or the National Credit Union Administration, right? So your money is super safe. Quite frankly, it's just more convenient, right? If you have a problem, you can call their customer service, which is generally pretty good, or back in the day, you could still walk into a brick and mortar place and get some assistance. So it really was designed to be more helpful for veterans to really figure out not only once you get your benefits, but how do you use them? And quite frankly, Tyler, it was just sinful to hear that you get your benefits and then fees would be taken out while you did commerce and bought stuff and the like. So it really was designed to be, much better. And the last time I looked, 130,000 veterans had made the switch. And so it was generally well received.
200,000 people. I mean, that's, I don't know what the total number of people that would be getting a check from the VA. or some payment, but
It was about
200,000 seems
6,000,000.
like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 6,000,000, so it was like 5%, and as you can imagine, Tyler, inevitably it caused problems because someone calls up and says, "Oh, I lost my check," and you gotta go run it down, right? Or they'd call, the debit card folks and be put on hold for hours, and they would think, "Oh, this is VA," and start saying bad things about VA. So it just set in motion just a lotta issues, right? And so then people every once in a while would go on social media and say, my identity's been stolen, VA is not helping me, and it wasn't really VA's fault. It was actually administered by the Department of Treasury, this Direct Express account. So that's what it enabled, right? Now, what's interesting is AMBA, who work at all the banks, the Association of Military Banks of America, they actually found credit counselors and financial counselors who agreed to offer veterans an hour of free counseling to better sort of figure out their financial management. So they even expanded the program to make it not just the banking cards, but also information to help veterans with their financial matters.
Now, I can't even imagine not having a bank account, but I can certainly envision a number of folks, a number of reasons why you wouldn't. If you made bad financial decisions or bounced checks at some point,
Right.
or you're a justice involved veteran and you didn't have accounts and credit histories and all the things that they require. So, what are the requirements other than direct deposit? Is there any other requirements for somebody to take advantage of this?
No, there's really not. But of course, each bank has their own rules. But what they promised, the banks in the program, for example, said, listen, if you are the person you described, I've had a bad history and, gee, maybe I couldn't get an account anywhere. If you kind of acknowledge, get into this program, they will try real hard to get you where you need to be, right? The same thing with the justice involved veterans, right? If you're in an institution, you can still do this to the extent you can get to your iPad or however that's done. And you can sort of if you go to the website, it basically says, I want to open an account, and it sends you to the place, and you can choose from the institutions, banks, or credit unions.
Is there anything else that we should know about this program? Is there any downsides to it?
No, there's really not. I mean, there's really not. Now, it's unfortunate, but you probably think, okay, it's a lot of homeless veterans. No, there's a lot of people just don't want to be in the banking system. So, I got if you're, tinfoil hat kind of stuff. I understand that, but the fees were the big problems, and quite frankly, now that's not really an issue. And of course, the security, right? Nothing was more painful to think about than veterans having their identity theft stolen, their benefits stolen, or tied up, or even just being siphoned off in fees.
Or somebody grabbing a check out of the mail? I'm sure that happened quite a bit
Yeah.
and cashed it someplace or another, and you have to prove it wasn't you. In the
Right.
meanwhile, it's months to probably resolve. This way, it's direct deposit. You be able to
Well, right. And
write a check or whatever.
if you are in a place where you don't have an address, homeless, this is unfortunate, right? Or just even a veteran who travels all the time, how do you get your benefits? If it's a check, right? This is so much better. In fact, that was kind of the ironic thing during the pandemic. If you remember the big PPP payments, right? People who
Mhm.
had bank accounts got their money much faster than people who did not, right? So there's just a whole bunch of common sense reasons why this is good. Civil unrest, they can't deliver the mail. Natural fires and whatever, they can't do stuff, right? But
Mhm.
EFTs, funds transfers, generally always happen.
Dr. Paul Lawrence, the former Undersecretary for Benefits at Veterans Affairs, thank you so much for sharing this information about unbanked veterans and the Veterans Benefits Banking Program. Big mouthful, but if you go Google it, you'll be able to find the program. So if you know somebody who needs a bank account that doesn't have one, is a veteran receiving benefits, they can go take advantage of it. The requirements are pretty simple. And if they don't have a bank account, this is a great way to get there, plus some free counseling as well.
Thanks, Tyler.